The Israel-Palestine war has been a long-standing dispute that can be traced back to the late 19th century when Jewish immigrants moved to Palestine, which was back then a part of the Ottoman Empire. Today, most news channels are extensively covering the ongoing war in the region, especially after the violent Palestinian group Hamas attacked innocent Israelis on October 7th. Besides being a violent rebellious group, Hamas also controls the government of Palestine in the Gaza Strip. While you get live updates and historical narratives on the war, we at STAT bring you the details on the tremors of the supply chain network because of the conflict, a rather subdued but important part of the dispute amidst all the noise. Hello and welcome, this is Mallika Mishra, and in today's episode of Cargo Tales, we will uncover the supply chain disturbances erupting from the ongoing tensions between the state of Israel and Palestine. Israel and Palestine, although immersed in time-old contentious disputes, are an important part of the global supply chain network. While Israel practices international trade with the United States, Europe, and Asia on grounds of technology, agriculture, and defense, Palestine, on the other hand, stands blocked and depends on Israel for its exports and imports. In the context of the international trade route and the war, there are two routes of prime importance. One, the Strait of Hormuz, and second, the Suez Canal. Before we delve into these two routes, let us look at their respective locations and find out who controls them. Speaking of the Strait of Hormuz, it is located in the Middle East and connects the Persian Gulf with the Gulf of Oman and the Arabian Sea. The strait is surrounded by Iran on the north and UAE and Oman on the south. While it is an international waterway, it is controlled by multiple players because of its sheer proximity to the countries around it. The Suez Canal, on the other hand, is located in Egypt. It acts like a bridge between the Mediterranean Sea and the Red Sea. It is operated and owned by the government of Egypt. The canal's strategic location makes it attractive because it provides a shortcut for ships traveling from Asia to Europe and vice versa. Now let's briefly understand their importance. The Strait of Hormuz is critical as it accounts for approximately 20% of the world's oil tankers that pass through it, making it essential for the security of global energy. On the other hand, the Suez Canal connects Europe and Asia and allows ships to bypass the perilous trip around the Cape of Good Hope. It accounts for about 12% of the world's total trade volume. A major portion of oil transported from the Middle East and Africa to the far west North America passes through this canal. Without the Suez Canal, these large container vessels would have to opt for longer routes, thus spending a lot more money on transportation. So now, having looked at their location and their importance, it's time to answer the obvious question. What kind of risk does the war bring on these two routes? The Suez Canal and the Hormuz Strait are in close vicinity to Israel and Palestine, which in return looms the risk of military interventions and security hazards. In times like these, when there are too many stakeholders involved, especially because the two routes are used for global trade from one country to the other, geopolitical tensions can disrupt the smooth passage of goods. Due to safety risks and the potential blockade, given the intensity of the war, price of transportation and oil, which is the most common commodity shipped through the strait and the canal, can increase. In fact, oil prices climbed nearly 6% on October 13th, with benchmark Brent posting its highest weekly gain since February. It is currently trading in the range of $89.23 and $90.25 per barrel, where it closed at $89.65 per barrel on October 16th. Investors priced in the possibility that the conflict in the Middle East could widen as Israel began ground raids inside the Gaza Strip. Now, security risks can not only cause fluctuations in oil price, but also affect insurance premiums for ships that pass through the two routes. Shipping costs can increase, leading to a likely drop in supply and demand of certain products, thereby causing inflation of commodities apart from oil. High scrutiny and security checks during wars delay shipments, which can hamper marine traffic management and increase consumption of fuel. Energy pipelines that pass through the war zone regions could be at risk of damage, further hampering the supply chain. The media has been buzzing with reports of Iran being involved in the attacks against Israel. As per analysts, if there is any retaliation against Tehran, the capital city of Iran, the Strait of Hormuz, could stand at risk of a major block as Iran predominantly controls the strait. Political affiliations and alliances could insinuate countries to choose sides, leading to possible interventions in maritime security. For instance, the United States of America has been a loyal ally of Israel since 1949. In fact, Joe Biden's administration and the United Kingdom recently deployed arms and ammunition to Israel during the ongoing war. Furthermore, to give you a glimpse of the present situation, as per Container Exchange, at this time, while Israel's major ports continue to function, including key terminals in Ashdod and Haifa, there is congestion at Ashdod due to increased security checks and labor shortages, leading to increased waiting times. In fact, the port of Ashdod and the port of Ashkelon too are facing trouble. Container Exchange is an online platform for container logistics that brings together all relevant companies to manage and book shipping containers and execute all related processes and optimize invoicing and payments. According to the platform, the port of Ashdod, 50 kilometers from the Gaza border, is only operating in an emergency mode subject to potential missile attacks. Restrictions on vessels carrying hazardous materials remain in effect. On the other hand, the port of Ashkelon, which is located 15 kilometers away from the Gaza border, is severely impacted, rendering it incapable of normal operations due to missile threats. Vessels can only discharge cargo while moored at sea buoys, highlighting the risk and necessity for adaptive measures. While these supply chain junctions seem to be facing some serious interruptions, it is also startling to see the impact of war on global stock market indices. According to a report by Investopedia, in the latest conflict between Israel and Palestinian militants, the S&P 500 sank briefly on the first trading day following these tragic events. But as the Israeli Army and Air Force responded, the S&P actually rose over the following week. Since the conflict involves the Middle East, with the potential for other regional interests to enter the conflict, the price of oil rose moderately from around $83 to $86 per barrel, but still well below near-term highs of around $94 per barrel observed in September 2023. And to give you India's positioning amidst all this, according to the Ministry of Commerce and Industry under the Indian government, India's exports to Israel account for 1.87% of India's total merchandise exports, led by petroleum products. Israel buys around $5.5 to $6 billion of refined petroleum products from India. The conflict could have an impact on bilateral trade, potentially leading to disruptions in Israel's export to India. Moreover, according to Container Exchange, while Israel's export to China is worth around $4.68 billion, the conflict may disrupt trade flows, particularly concerning Israel's high-tech exports. Kristen Roloffs, co-founder and CEO at Container Exchange, says, "The Israel-Palestinian conflict serves as a reminder of the uncertainties facing ambitious trade projects like the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor, or the IMEEC, positioned as a Western counterpart to China's Belt and Road. IMEEC, involving railways, ports and green energy, aligns with the G7's plans to mobilize $600 billion by 2027 for global infrastructure investments. Therefore, in conclusion, while the ongoing war between Israel and Palestine is unfortunately costing innocent lives on both sides, it is also threatening an extremely important global supply chain network from a macro perspective. However, the grueling effect of the disruption depends on the duration and expansion of the conflict. A war indeed has a serious potential of ripple effect across international trade and relations, leading to damage not only the present but also the future. And on that note, we have reached the end of this episode. For more such crisp insights from the world of cargo and logistics, stay tuned. Thank you for watching.